And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed, some appropriate toe-tapping love music on this Valentine's Day weekend. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And I'm Corrie Sirota, a clinical social worker and author of Someone Died, Now What? A personal and professional perspective on coping with grief and loss.
Well, we want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day this weekend. And, for some, it's a joyous, fun, romantic weekend. But for Corrie, for others, it's not so easy, isn't it?
No, I'm glad that you raised that, Matt, because as much as we want to be upbeat for today's show, and we want to also recognize that the holidays in general can be tough. Valentine's Day is no exception. There are those that lost loved ones, and Valentine's Day is about love and together, couples, families, etc. So I wanted to remind people that grief is love, and it's perfectly normal to feel heartbroken right now. And you really have a choice here. You can either absolutely ignore the day, or you can embrace the day. You do you. Spend time alone, spend time with friends, do something that honors their memory, or attend a group with like-minded people who are in similar situations to you. But the bottom line is, I'll reinforce it again, you do you.
Yeah, I love that, Corrie. And you know what? We are going to embrace the day. On the second half of Life Unrehearsed, we now call it a segment called Helping Moms and Dads. And we've had just a whole bunch of different guests and topics, interesting and knowledgeable guests, and particularly around the sandwich generation, those worried about their families, maybe their parents. But this week is quite special as we continue our Valentine's weekend show. And we wanted to show that you're never too young to find your soulmate. As you know, Corrie, I'm in retirement homes and seniors residences all the time in my line of work. And so I was asking around to some of the residences if there were any couples that happened to meet in their senior living community. And the answer was a resounding yes. The challenge was trying to get them to come on live radio to talk about it. Well, we did find a daring couple that were more than happy to share their story. And I'd love to welcome Larry Muldown and Anne Lutwack, who are both residing at the Steiger residence in Saint Laurent. Larry and Anne, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you.
All right. And that was Larry and Anne. Can you hear us as well?
Yes, we can hear you, Matt.
All right. Super.
I want to thank you very much for inviting Larry and me. Larry and I first met at the Steiger's residence the first week in November of 2020. Meeting Larry, I also met other nice and interesting people, but Larry and I were fortunate to have found each other here. We exchanged phone numbers as we were interested in learning more about each other. Our relationship developed, and I am pleased to say we are now great friends.
I love that. And, I have to, full disclosure, we talked earlier on in the week, had a lovely conversation with both Larry and Anne, and you did give me permission to ask your ages, and you also gave us permission to go with your first names, said forget about the formalities, so we'll go with Larry and Anne. And Anne, if you wouldn't mind, you've got a big birthday coming up, I believe, this week, don't you?
I have a big birthday coming up on the 18th, and I'm going to tell you, because I'm honest about it, I'm going to be 90.
Well, congratulations. 90 years old.
To me, I'm talking about somebody else, actually.
and that's why. That's
well, good for you. And then, Larry, we need to ask your age because you've got a little extra time on Anne, don't you?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I am going to be 100 years young on March the 3rd.
Oh, it's so great. You guys are incredible. Okay, Anne, I want to address this to you. What attracted you to Larry?
Well, what attracted me to Larry? Everything about him. He just was a perfect gentleman, which I like. I like honesty in people. And he's just everything that I would like in a man, that's exactly what Larry had.
And from what I understand, when you went to your residence at the Steiger, this was not too long ago, and you really had no intention of finding someone, and I believe you went down to the cafeteria, the dining area, and you had a meal, and I think that's where you first got your eyes on each other.
That's right. I was sort of waiting beside his table where Larry was sitting. I was waiting for my table to get cleaned off so I can go and sit down. So, of course, standing beside his table, one word led to another, and I went to sit down at my table. And after we ate, we sort of right away got together, walked around a little bit, laughed a little bit. That's one thing we do a lot of. We laugh a lot, you know?
Oh,
I mean,
beautiful.
everything is just so funny to us.
I think it's so heartwarming. I mean, Matt and I are sitting here smiling like you can't imagine. Larry, I got to hear from you. What attracted you to Anne?
Oh, Anne is fantastic. She's a wonderful lady, good-looking, very polite, and what else can I tell you? Oh, I can hardly say anything because she's so nice. All the adjectives come to me, but I just can't repeat them right now.
Well, so Larry, were you nervous to approach her?
Beg your pardon?
Were you nervous to approach her when you saw her? You thought she was good looking? You wanted to meet? Like,
Listen, after nearly 100 years, I'm not nervous anymore.
okay.
Oh, I love it. That's we're talking to Larry and Anne. Anne is celebrating a birthday next week. Who will be 90 years old. Larry will be 100 years old next month. So wonderful. Now, Larry, you are an Army vet, from what I understand, World War II, aren't you?
Yes. I was in World War II. I had 4 years of service, 3 years in Canada, 1 year overseas.
Well, thank you. So that would be a good opening line, Larry. You want to come see my medals, eh? Who approached who? Who approached when you saw each other? Who went over to who?
Well, actually, Anne came over to me. I don't know what she saw in me.
You're right.
You see what I mean?
The abuse, Larry, the abuse. So, Anne, you went over to him, and do you remember what you said?
No, I really didn't go over to him. I was just placed to stand at that table, at his table, until my table, like I said before, was cleaned off.
She passed me. She passed me by.
But then I got very hungry, so I think I took something out of his plate to eat.
I love it.
That's what happened, and we like I said before, we just laugh a lot.
Well,
Sometimes
it's
really hard on us.
You have such a wonderful attitude, and this is obviously a big part of it, both of you, Larry and Anne. And so, Larry, maybe you're playing hard to get. Who knows, But tell me something. You met each other at your senior living community, the Steiger in St. Laurent. Great residence, by the way. And, typically, I think you met several months ago, and how do you spend your day together? You have separate apartments, I think, but you spend time together, you eat together. How does it work?
Yes, we do. We eat our meals together, except for breakfast, because I don't get up so early. And what do we do? What we do in the summer, we walked a lot. We just took walks. I don't know, for some reason we only want to be together, so comes after supper, we sit in the lobby, we watch a movie. There's so many things to do here, or part of the time there's a lot of things to do.
Sure.
But we manage to be together all the time. I guess we just want to be together.
That's because Anne is so interesting. I can't get away from her.
That's beautiful.
Oh, I love it, Larry. You're a charmer, Larry. You know what? We we have to head out to traffic, and we actually we're scheduled to have another couple. They happen to get some cold feet, and they won't be joining us. So, Larry and Anne, you are so much fun. We'd love to have you back right after traffic if you could hold on to us for a couple of minutes, and we're going to get your advice, both of your advice, about, in your opinion, what a successful relationship would be and what it takes. But first, we have to head to the CJAD Traffic Center. We're going to hear from Jill Fitzgerald.
Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corrie Sirota, along with my co-host, Matt Del Vecchio. It's Valentine's Day weekend, and we're talking love and relationships. As we just heard, you're never too young to find your soulmate, even if it's at your senior's residence. So on the line, we have the charming 99-year-old Larry and the lovely Anne, Anne will be turning 90 this week. They both reside at the Steiger residence in Saint Laurent. And we're continuing our conversation with them because we're learning so much. So, Anne and Larry, I was curious about reactions from your families. Did you introduce them to each other, and how'd that go?
Well, because of the pandemic here, we couldn't get too many visitors coming in from the family. And it was very difficult for Anne to meet some of my family, but she has met my sister, my daughter, and she's just wonderful. Wonderful. And it's the same with Anne's family. I met her sons and her daughter, and they're just great people, and we all get along fine.
That's
just
lovely.
love it. Just love it. Talking with Larry and we're going to throw it over to you. And
yes,
I got to tell you,
I'd like to say something, Matt.
Sure, you're the boss. Go ahead, Anne.
Well, no, because I know I was listening to the radio before we were able to get on, and you had a professional speaking. Am I right?
That's right,
yes,
Lisa Brookman.
Yes. Well, I'm the kind of a person that likes to see people happy. And if people find themselves at home a lot lonely, there's so much out there for them to get involved and not to stay lonely. It's just a wonderful thing to be with people, loving and caring, and just to get themselves involved. I would love to see everybody happy.
You know, such wonderful words of advice, and it's so true. You know, maybe it's a bit of a leap of faith, but you've obviously done that. Your attitude is great, and you weren't afraid to go out there and meet with each other. So certainly, advice that you've given is wonderful. Larry, I'd love to hear some last words from yourself. Any advice that you would give for good relationships?
Give advice to whom?
What type of advice would you have?
Like
Obviously, you and Anne are have a great relationship. What's the key?
Well, you know, with Anne, she has a wonderful sense of humor. That is so important between couples. If you have a good sense of humor, you're going to get along. And this we have, both of us, and we are just fantastic together. We can't stop laughing sometimes. We were so happy together.
You know what? That's a great way to end this off. And we are so happy for you. You are such a breath of fresh air. And we want to thank you so much for coming on Life Unrehearsed and sharing the good word with us.
Matt, it's been our pleasure, and we thank you so much for having us.
All right. We want to wish you...
I agree, Matt. Same from me, too. It was wonderful meeting you and talking to you.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. You're putting smiles on many, many faces, I'm sure. And we want to wish you the very best. And that's 99-year-old Larry Muldown and soon-to-be 90-year-old Anne Lutwack. They both met each other at their residence, which is in the Steiger in Saint Laurent. Speaking of the Steiger, you may not know this, but they have an activity room set up listening to you live with a bunch of the people living at the Steiger, so they're listening to us. We want to give a great big shout out to all of them, and of course to Bruce Seltzer, who was one of the gentlemen there. Great guy, and also helped us set this up. So thank you very much.
Lovely chatting. What a fun interview. What a fun couple, and just the best to both of you. Happy Valentine's Day. Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you because I know that obviously you do this for a living. You're in many, many senior living communities you go through. I want to know what your observations have been around this type of romance.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm so happy we were able to get Larry and Anne. We never know how those interviews can go. But there has been so much negative in the media concerning, long-term care and residences, and hopefully we were able to show the other side of it. And one of the biggest reasons why senior living communities are so popular is because of that social aspect. We've clearly seen what isolation and loneliness can do. Even Anne was referring to that. But I have to tell you, many people, many clients that we are with, I often get, well, you know what? Mom's not going to participate, and she's not very social, or Dad's not going to go for any of that stuff. And inevitably, usually what happens is you don't have to participate in all the activities. Very often it starts off by just people watching. But I have seen time and time again where people have met, and it doesn't have to be falling in love, right, Corrie? It's, we're just talking about companionship. Having someone there. And I think that is ultimately so important, not just for people in residences, for humans in general. The touch, the talking, having someone to talk to. And it was so refreshing to hear from Larry and Anne. I know there's a whole bunch of other couples, and we'll put that in italics because someone will say, we're not a couple, but it is so important.
It's heartwarming to hear it and to know so much how this is possible. And I say, as a grief counselor, the number one sentiment that a widower will say is the hardest thing is the loneliness. So like you said, Matt, we're not looking at or advocating that everybody must find a partner, but people need people, and residences are a great place to connect. And of course, we all know what the consequences and the challenge of COVID was isolating everyone to be safe. At the same time, one of the hardest things for seniors in particular is isolating. So it's nice to see things are, thank God, opening up.
Yeah, and absolutely, and they really are. And just to encourage us, things are going up. We even talked this at the front of the beginning of the show, where I think people are gaining a little bit more confidence to get out there. Some are a little more shy, some want to get out there, but it's all about that connecting with others. Well, so we want to thank you very much for joining us today on Life Unrehearsed, and hope you enjoyed that Helping Moms and Dads segment, as we try to do on the second half of every show. Corrie, we have a very interesting show next week, don't we? Can you tell us about it?
Absolutely. It's Black History Month, so we're going to be celebrating the progress that has been made over the last couple of decades while identifying the challenges that still remain. And investigative journalist Moira Walsh will be discussing her book, Happily Ever Older, Revolutionary Approaches to Long-Term Care.
Actually, Moira Walsh with the Toronto Star, investigative journalist. She is excellent, and she's broken down a few barriers. She's traveled the world, and we hear so much about, we've got to change long-term care. And so we're going to hear from her and some amazing approaches that some countries are using that we want to share with everyone. So thank you very much for tuning in to Life Unrehearsed. And as a reminder, for all your inquiries or assistance with navigating home care, seniors residences, or downsizing, it'd be my pleasure to help. Our services are completely free. Call me at Lianas Senior Transition Support at 514-622-8074, or look us up at lianasservices.com. Many thanks to our technical producer, Cedric. Great job. And you can listen to Life Unrehearsed here on CJAD 800 every Saturday at 3 p.m.